Hello, how are you?
Hello. Great. How are you?
Chanja? I am good. We are here on another night for City of Altars. Everybody is already with us tonight and to see what's going on. So, how are you? Number one, how are you doing first?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a busy month, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, and we are here with Latino Center Arts and Culture, Soul Collective, Sedona Truth, Washington, the Washington
Washington
Center.
Neighborhood Center.
Center. Yeah, I know. Sorry. And then Tana, right? Which is
Taller Arte de Nuevo Amanecer.
there you go. And we're here for the second week to tell you what is going on with the City of Altars this week. A lot of cool workshop happened last week. It was very exciting, and the opening ceremonial circle was awesome too. A very spiritual experience for all of us to heal the community in a sense too. And we're opening that portal as we're coming into Muertos. So, um, and everybody out there who's probably wondering, oh, I got a question. What is the City of Altars?
Yeah. Well, for the purposes of this conversation, City of Altars is a project that's been launched by the Latino Center of Art and Culture in collaboration with four other leading arts organizations, including Tana in Woodland, Sojourner Truth, African Heritage Museum, Washington Neighborhood Center, and Soul Collective, to bring us together collectively to do what we've been doing for a long time, which is really activating our spaces around this season of Dia de los Muertos. In addition to these five different occasions where we bring the communities together, whether it's Souls of the City, whether it's Kwanzaa for Sojourner Truth, whether it's Dia de Muertos for other organizations, and even Panteón de Sacramento, we have also had the ability to bring in artists to lead talleres or workshops around altar building and creative expression. So there are several workshops happening in the region simultaneously. So City of Altars is really this kind of rallying together of organizations celebrating something that's been in place for many centuries.
I know, and see, and I think that's what's happening right now, and it's a cool thing happening, seeing all the stuff that's going on, which is really tremendously a lot of activation for these centers too. And we have a wonderful artist, and what's who is this artist?
Ooh, this artist, this person, this educator, this community leader, this good friend, is an incredibly talented person who is, well, she can speak for herself. I wasn't completely ready to give her an introduction, but I suppose I can embarrass her now. Um, yes, so let me see if I can set this up as like a quiz. Like, she is from Woodland, California. She is also known on Instagram and social media platforms as We Are Seeds. She is responsible for many of the beautiful iconography and murals in the Woodland area. She collaborates with youth at Cache Creek High School, where she works with youth in those impacted communities to do a lot of muraling and public work. She was recently featured in this cool series on ABC 10 to talk about her work and her history. She is the daughter of very of parents who were also very much a part of the Chicano movement and spaces like that, but she can speak to that. She's just an incredible person who does incredible work for young folks and is also a featured artist that has created a commemorative poster for the Crocker Art Collection around Estampas de la Raza. And and she's just a really funny and cool person, and probably the best driver out of all my friends.
There you
So
go. See, and
and a
that's
dog
what you need.
mom.
There
So
you
I
go.
guess yeah, go for it. Like, should we do a drum roll?
There you go. But before we do the drum roll, I just wanted to introduce her. I mean, so we know who also is coming up, and get to know people, get to know artists in the community as more intimate setting too, right?
Mhm.
Maybe yearbook pictures, but I'm not quite sure.
No, not today.
Yeah, I know. I can see her in the back. I'm like, but let's go with the calendar and let's see what we have for. We'll look at the whole month again, and then we'll go back to the I think three or four events going on this week, right?
Yes, so we are inching closer, but for those folks in the area, there was a Sugar Skull workshop at Washington Neighborhood Center yesterday, and that was fantastic. We have an Altar and Sugar Skull workshop at Taller Arte Nuevo Amanecer on Tuesday,
Oh,
so
is this
that's
it right
coming
here?
up. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the one. And because there was the next one. There we go. And Washington Neighborhood Center is also hosting their Legados y Futuros, which is a benefit celebration in support of the Washington Neighborhood Center on Thursday, the 19th from 6 to 9.
Yeah, so we need to go
But
support.
but all that also leading to one of the major events that happens here in the region with Souls of the City, which if you haven't attended, you absolutely should because this happens in Old Sac near the riverfront. And so Soul Collective activates the entire region and brings folks down there. And it's just a really beautiful celebration in the evening. Folks are welcome to also dress up, but to look at all the altares and also be in community with a lot of the folks there. So that's going to be a really beautiful event as well this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to be going there too.
Mhm.
Having some fun and having some good times for there too, and beautiful art altars and altars themselves, and traditional and non-traditional and whatever we have going on. So, um, but yeah, so it should be exciting. All of these. Oh, hold on a second. Let's not forget tomorrow. Also, too, we have a show by me at the Mexican consulate's office as part of a, let's say, a tour through the United States. It's ending this week. Not this one, but the last one is next week in Los Angeles and then to Mexico City. So I will have that show coming up tomorrow with lots of
We're
stuff.
very excited for you, Ruben. We're
Yeah.
excited for your solo show at the Mexican consulate. And if y'all can attend that show on Tuesday, that'd be great too. So if
Yeah.
you're in Woodland, go to Tana. If you're in the Natoma, Sacramento area and want to support Ruben, go to the Mexican consulate.
Which
Um,
come to Mexico. Come to
come to
Mexico.
Mexico.
So look, love Bridget's here. Bridget's everywhere. Again. And we have Armando. Yo, what's up, Armando? Always good to see you.
Yay!
Yeah. And then we have Bridget again. Woohoo, Ruben. Yeah. So, um, but yeah. So welcome, Bridget. Welcome, Armando, and everybody else. Please help us ask questions to the artists coming up.
Mhm.
I've always had a wonderful interaction with some shows that we're on together, and I only do good beings and good vibrations with people now that I'm older. Now I know how to get rid of all the ones I don't want in my life. So with that, with the drum roll, a very good vibrational artist, a being from Woodland.
Woodland, California.
Yeah. So let me set this up, and here we go. Hey, you're my.
Yes.
How's it going?
The introduction, Carissa, and thank you for not pulling out the yearbook. Appreciate that.
My mom has it, so I couldn't even if I tried.
We have great information. Yeah, and remember to come every Thursday, every Monday. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. To I'm don't make me give you a telephone number. Carissa knows. So we'll tell you about the Bedia Boy story at one point too. So every Monday come and we have like what's going on this week for cities altered, and also other information for the artist. So hello, how you doing, by the way?
Good. Great.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were talking to me or not, but what's up?
Yeah. So look at this. See you got.
Yes. So just quick plug for Bridget though. Bridget just curated a show in San Francisco through Soma Arts, and I believe if you type it in so people can follow, but it's around hummingbirds, and she actually brought up 4 other Sacramento-based artists to collaborate on that project. So whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Sacramento, whether it's many spaces, I think where these artists
Davis
are
now.
taking over
Yeah,
the world. So thank you, Bridget, for all you do too.
that's right.
Yeah.
So, I met you during like one of the shows. I think one of the shows that Raul put on, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
that's where we first met. Yeah. So we've done
Who's
a couple of
Raul?
shows. Raul Mejia is another artist who he actually puts on a lot of shows around in town. He hasn't done lately, but he has done a lot that got a lot of people. I think got a lot of people together. He always like, come on, Ruben, do it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. He's like, do it. I'm like, okay, So sometimes he's a pain in the butt, but that's good. He's a good, that's Raul. Yeah. But he's actually gotten a lot of artists, their first shows and all that stuff too. So it's been a good collaboration amongst everybody else, and now everybody seems to be growing too, which is awesome to see that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So wait, hold on.
Woo, Hummingbirds Visit at Soma Arts Cultural Center. That's the one that Bridget co-curated with Rio
Yeah.
Yanez in San Francisco. So if you have a chance to go to the Bay Area, hit up Soma Arts and then head down to Oakland, check out Malaquias Montoyas's activation. And I'm going to segue back to Elise on that one.
Yeah. So Elise, you are. So Tana, give me a little bit of an introduction. Like this is what do you do there?
So Tana is it's a silkscreen studio. They teach you how to silkscreen. It's collaboration between the city and Chicano Studies Department at UC Davis. So they have different interns that come in every semester, quarter. What are they on? Quarter system? I don't know.
Quarter.
I went to a state school. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned from interns, I learned from Malakias, and I learned from Eddie and Drusella and other managers that have been there. And yeah, I think when I describe it as a silkscreen studio, it just doesn't feel like it covers it quite
Yeah.
enough. Like it's also just a space, a community space that I've been able to introduce young people to that I'm working with, and work with them on different stuff, not just silkscreen, not just art, but just having conversation. There just aren't a lot of places in Woodland, especially that allow for young people to just be in space together and not be doing crazy kid things. So yeah, it's a community space is a better way to describe it, I think, than just a silkscreen studio.
Yeah. So it's a space where people feel safe and can create their
Yeah.
life away. Yeah. How long you been doing it for?
So I moved back to Woodland in like 2016, 2017. And my mom had been telling me to go, and I didn't believe her, didn't really think that she knew what was up, but she knew what was up. Like I ended up seeing some of Eddie Lampkin's stuff up at a restaurant here in town, and his handle was on the artist description. So when I hit him up, he said, "You got to go to Tana. Like that's where I learned how to do everything." And yeah, it was again a space that taught me how to silkscreen and taught me that, which was huge, but also just was a space I really needed in Woodland in my hometown that I didn't think was going to exist here. Like I felt
Yeah.
like I left LA, which was like just art and culture everywhere, to come back to my hometown where I knew, like growing up, that wasn't something that I knew existed, and now to come to this and see that that was a place here was really cool. So I'm just trying to do as much as I can to make sure I continue to bring people in and continue to make that a space for other people to do the same thing that I did, and yeah, hopefully just continue to build it.
Yeah. I see you everywhere. Like I see you at these events and when you're still screening and showing people, doing demonstrations for people. I think it's great. I really do, and I think that you're showing a lot of people a lot of different ways, and making like a gateway for everybody to come in and check it out too.
Cool. Yeah, that's the hope. I mean,
Yeah.
I think somebody had asked me the other day, they're like, "How many jobs do you have? Like, you work at Cash Creek, you work for Brown Issues, and then you work at Tana." And I was like, "I don't work at Tana." I was like, "I'm just there all the time, and
Yeah.
I just feel like I owe it to the space and to the people who started it and are continuing it to um, shout them out anytime I can and keep people coming in there." So
Right
yeah.
on. Let me ask you one question about the ceremony that what you'll have to give fill in the, everybody with the ceremony. But how did you feel about that? How did you?
Do you want me
Um,
to give some background on that for the folks who
Yeah,
are
I give. Yeah, sorry,
okay?
dyslexia. Sorry.
No, I'm like, I sometimes have to think, I'm like, we're talking about a ceremony and folks are tuning in like, did I miss something?
Well, yeah, I'll put this up too while we talk about it too, so we can have a little bit of a.
Yeah. And I mean, you see Stampa Dia to the far right. We see Ruben. We see Lupe Heredia, who's in the background. We have Devin Whitaker, who's doing some of the filmmaking and documenting of everything we're doing for City of Altars. Don't quite recognize the person in the back. And then we have Tina Favela on the back left, me, and then having a hard time seeing the other person. However,
And
this takes place
That's
on,
Sojourner's foot arm. I'm sorry,
oh,
Sojourner's. Yeah, that's
no,
her.
it's Shona's.
Shona, sorry.
Sorry.
Listen.
There is a woman named Mrs. Sojourner who does a lot of the artwork here in the community too.
Yeah.
But no, so essentially because I think we get so caught up in the workshops and activations around Day of the Dead that we forget that there is a certain sanctity or sacred nature of building an altar. And it has actually been done here in the region. It really was brought back by a lot of folks in the Chicano movement, specifically folks like Lupe Portillo and members of the RCAF and other Chicanos who really were creating space and honoring a lot of our history here in the region. And these activations, and even that word feels strange to say, but there was a very natural spirit here for a long time to come together and build out that is, or to be honoring this time of year. And we're really grateful to have elders like Lupe Portillo, like Stan Padilla, who are still leading these traditions now. But it was, as we embarked on this collaboration, we knew that we wanted to give that space and thanks to elders to allow us to do this work and not forget those roots. And so they came together and led a blessing on the project, and also as a blessing and honoring of this collaboration that was going to happen this past Friday at Southside Park. So it was the first time that we did anything like that. But yeah, it was really beautiful to just listen to the words that Stan shared, that Lupe shared, that other elders, like Mama Cobb was in attendance. Elders also, Queen and Tashaka, representing the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum, all were present to do this. But that was a blessing to basically say, go forth, you know. And as many of us know from whatever region we may represent, or as we're learning about this, it's that this port, and actually maybe Ruben, you can speak to this sort of portal opening during this time of year, or this thinning of the veil between the living and the dead, that we honor with Day of the Dead.
And that does start with the change. The seasons are changing, and the spiritual world and the physical world are coming closer together too, as the leaves are falling and nature is transitioning into its own space, and closer to get to Day of the Dead, the portal will open up, and that's when everything kind of comes together with life and the spirits that are coming too. That's a quick one. So Jeffrey says, where can we see this in person?
I'm going to assume, Jeffrey, hi, that these mean the altars that are being built by the different organizations.
Yeah.
And these altars are being exhibited at all of our different host spaces, activations. So Soul Collective with Souls of the City will have those altares on display on Saturday. Washington Neighborhood Center later in the month. Elise can speak to when Tana is going to be exhibiting that altar and talking more about that. We will be exhibiting ours for Panteón de Sacramento, and the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum will actually be exhibiting their altares during Kwanzaa, because that is a time when they actually build their altares, which is closer to the end of December, early January. So you should come out to all of those events.
Yeah. And we have Megan here. Hi, Megan. How you
hey,
doing?
Megan.
So, do you want to read that, or?
Yeah, this is absolutely my favorite time of year here because of the richness of these traditions. Megan Van Voorhees is a really important person, I'll just say that, in the region, who really champions the work that we do here as arts and cultural organizations. And she's kind of the person that listens to us and can make a lot happen at the city level. And she's kind of the grand hoo-ha that's administering this major grant that made this happen. So we're glad she's here. But this is one of your new favorite artists, Megan, if you haven't met her yet.
And Megan's also a very, very, very cool being too. So she really is. So not just all, what we can give, but, we all, she's really cool. A really nice person. So, and Janine is here. Hello, Janine. We got a heart. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and I think when we go back to, let me go back to Jeffrey talking about it. But Jeffrey, that in that ceremony, that was more like also like a Mandela. So it was only existing for that moment in time, and also we deconstructed it by everybody taking the element from there, as they would do like in more Buddhist tradition too, on that too. So that was a very stance. Has very different modalities that he, and teachings that he abides for. So it was very interesting and very in the moment, and you cannot create that moment again because that moment has passed, but it was a very beautiful moment. So I believe.
So back to your question, Ruben, where you asked Elise what she thought.
Oh, I did, huh?
That or
yes, Elise. Now the backstory is there.
Got it. So I think my kind of favorite part of the whole thing, aside from everyone coming together and all of it, the meaningfulness of all of it, but I think Eddie Salas and Stan both kind of spoke to this idea of like passing this on to the next generation. And working with youth, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle right now, like, I feel like I'm not quite old enough to be, like, an elder, I'm not quite young enough to be considered youth, so it's like, where do I fit in and how am I carrying this on? How am I making sure that this continues to stay alive, and what does it look like? Because it's gonna look very different. I think it already does look different for us making things and putting together these altares, but in 10, 15, 20 years, it's gonna look even more different, and so what are, I guess, some of the traditions that are gonna stay, the stories that are gonna stay? Yeah, so I think for the next one, if I'm assuming we will have a next one or something that looks similar, I do wanna bring out more youth for sure. These are things that I think initially they're hesitant, so even the workshop that we did last week at Tana was a poetry workshop, and they're hesitant to come out to these things because they sound boring. Like, they just don't sound like something that they wanna spend 2 hours of their day doing. And then when they leave, it's a completely different feeling. They'll come into school the next day feeling completely different about it and telling their friends, telling their teachers about how cool it was to be in that space. So, um, I should have brought more kids out there. I think you mentioned it's been a really long month and just I'm tired, man. But it's
Yeah.
been I wish I would have brought some out. Like, I really do. It just yeah. So
Yeah,
those
I think you're right too about like passing things on and teaching different things. So no matter what level of age you're at, right?
mhm.
Because I think you are already teaching the youth, right? And so you have the handle on that too. Having them there too would have helped, not helped a lot, but I think it was just one of those moments in time where next time we do it, it'll be for that too. I think this time was more about like healing the community and all of us like getting our energy back, right, and touching that spiritual, that light, and now we can pass that light on. It was almost like when Stan said take it, it's almost like we got this little light in our hand. Now what are you going to do with it, right?
Yeah.
So, and now we can go back and teach, whoever we're teaching, and the youth is really something that we need to look up upon too. um, Before I show one of some of your artwork too, because I'm really excited about showing your work, and we talk a little bit about stuff, but not like this. Now I have you, I can ask you questions about your stuff too. But before that, will you read this, Carissa? I think it's more for you too.
All right. I will be attending the event in Sacramento. I'm taking my kids so they can learn more about Dia de los Muertos. I will be attending on Saturday, November 4th after 7 p.m. Will there be any guest speakers at that time? November 4th, she must be talking about Panteón de Sacramento.
Yeah.
Um, what's been really beautiful about all of this is not only are the events different from one to the next, but the workshops are incredibly different because each of us are, I mean, I go hard on this. It's that there is so much diversity within what we consider to be the Latino community or even Chicano expression. And so Tanai's done like the poetry workshop, the screen printing that's happening there, the muraling that's happening there is different from the conversations happening at Latino Center, different from the conversations happening at Soul Collective at Washington Neighborhood Center. So even these major events around Dia de los Muertos are very different. So to the I what's her name, Ella's
Yeah.
question is that typically the event that you're talking about, Panteón de Sacramento, we are creating a very different experience in that site. We're creating an entire cemetery with musical performances and also almost teatro to some extent with our director of folk and traditional art, Vidal Beltran. And there's also rows and rows of community-based altares that are built and also an exhibition and that sort of thing. So for a weekend, you are transported to a very different area that is very different than a lot of the other Day of the Dead meetings and a lot of the ways that that's carried out. I know that with Kwanzaa being carried out by the Sojourner Truth and African Heritage, there will be more conversations and speakers at events like that. Ours is very much an immersive experience, so not as many guest speakers per se, more so an immersive experience for that weekend. But I would encourage you that if you want to listen to these speakers, including Elise at Tana and these other spaces, come to the workshops. That is a much more intimate venue for you to get to know some of the folks who've been leading these workshops. We just had Lupe Portillo lead a discussion around the creation of altares at our workshop this past Saturday. And so that's really the time, is the workshops when they're smaller, when there's more one-on-one time.
Yeah.
But the beauty of all this is to say that all these workshops and events are being documented. So there's actually a documentary being created that where we'll have more of these interviews with these beautiful elders and also young folks and people who are doing this work, and that we will be showing to the community in spring of next year. So even if you miss any of these workshops, even if you miss some of these events, this is a story that we want to keep and we want to share with the next generation as far as like what's been happening in this region. So I don't think I answered that question.
No,
No, we
you
won't
did.
have guest speakers on that Saturday,
But
yeah.
but if you come back next Monday night for the
Mhm.
City of Altars for this program again, we're going to have two of the altar makers in coming. So and talking about it. So it'll be a Spanish and English show next week with Master Vidal coming, and could they have a workshop coming up, Spanish workshop coming up too, or in Spanish I should say. So and then see, Adriana said, Lupe.
Oh, Adriana went. Yes, the Lupe Portillo altar workshop was amazing.
Yeah.
I this work would have happened anyways. That's the thing. Like when Elise, I don't know if you can speak to a little bit about the kind of workshops or conversations you have with youth, but this work happens with or without funding. And I think that it's been beautiful to collaborate, but also maybe you can speak a little bit to the importance of doing this work.
Yeah, so the last 3 years, 2 years, I guess, after COVID, we've been doing, an altar in honor of young people who between 20 and in 2019 going into 2021, just lost their lives to community violence, gun violence, and so we were honoring them, both with the altares and then with processions through Woodland. Um, and yes, we were able to pull it off, but and I was kind of talking to Ruben a little bit before this just about the engagement with youth. So a lot of the kids, they're working at 17, 16, 17 years old, and they're making money for their families, and they don't have time to come out to some of these things. So when I can offer them any sort of stipend or anything to get them to come out, it means a lot for them, not just like because it's
Yeah.
money and they'll do anything, but it's meaningful for them. They want to be a part of it and they just can't because of the limitations that they have based on that. So if anything, like that's been the biggest thing that this has done has made it possible for more youth and more people to be involved with this. Um, yeah, so it is happening, but this is helping out a lot. So I hope you guys know that.
Good. Yeah, and I felt the same way too. Like, but I want to ask you, like, how do we get more youth? Like, how do we reach out? Because I know that we have to go out there, right? Because a lot of people are shy. I mean, I knew if I grew up, I'd never had this kind of program before, right? I'd be like, oh, that's great, right? Somewhere to go, but instead of the streets.
Mm.
Yeah.
There have to be like just I guess trusted uh people within the community or within the schools that they know that can kind of guide them into those spaces. It's hard to just put a flyer up at a school and expect a 16 or 17-year-old to just show up. It's not enough. And I think sometimes what I've run into just with city, county, there are things available for young people to do, but again, without someone showing them that, or if they're not doing the outreach, or I I mean, I gave 5 kids a ride to the last workshop. I'll probably give 5 more kids a ride to the workshop tomorrow. So, there are a lot of different limitations that keep people from doing the workshops, from coming to the events, that we might not think of. We can't just put it out there as like, "This is going on, come if you can or come if you want." They want to, like, they wanna
Yeah.
be a part of it, but there are certain limitations, or they just don't trust it. That's the other thing is
Yeah, that's right. That's probably the number one part of it, right? Because I mean, I'm going to go roll back, and the way I grew up with my father, I don't think I would trust an adult. What I mean, being from that kind of abusive situation, I'd be like very hesitant, like, what do you want from me? You know what I mean?
right, yeah.
So I think a lot of kids are probably go through the same thing too. Is like far as like being able to trust somebody, or or even being hurt in that way too, to be able to trust, someone to take them and offer them some cool stuff to do.
Yeah, no, I mean the poetry workshop last Tuesday was probably a pretty perfect example of that. I mean, again, it's not something like when they think of poet, they're like, "What do you mean poetry?" Like, I don't know how that works for me at all. Like, that's not something
Yeah,
that. And then when they sit down with someone like Jose Cordon or Eddie Salas and they listen to like them do poetry, it's a very different poetry than like Robert Frost or whoever
proper poetry.
yeah, like
Yeah,
it's just different. It's
yeah,
not it speaks to them, it speaks to their experience and they opened up like faster than I've ever experienced, to be honest. Like that was crazy to me to
yeah,
see them um at one point that they were writing and they were just like, I don't even write in class. Like, what am I like? Why am I here? Why am I like taking my time outside of school to write? And then not just to write, but to stand up in front of 15 to 20 people and say these things that are like so deep,
yeah,
not just like reciting something. Like this is like a real life thing for them and real experiences. So it was really cool. It was a really good workshop that yeah, I hope we can do it again.
yeah. And that's Yaya was telling me that too. She's like, I was telling her, well, maybe we won't call it poetry. Maybe we'll just call it writings or feelings. And so there's no like what do you call it, thing that they have to go through. Just like get up on stage and just say what you need to say and feel.
Yeah,
Because once you put a label on something, people get intimidated by it too. You know,
for
also
sure. Yeah.
yeah. But
I'm curious though. I've actually never asked Elise, how did you get involved in this work? Like, how did you start working with youth
yeah,
and kind of
Um,
bridging that with art?
I don't I mean, damn. So I think there's like a very obvious like my mom was an educator for a long time and always involved with the Chicano movement, just other Chicano educators in the area. And so that's like I think step one is just having that. But then I think very like right when I moved back and I started make like again got in contact with Tana and started like doing stuff there. I had my own, I guess, solo show at that same restaurant that I saw Eddie's stuff at. And the superintendent of YCOE at the time came in. He was also just a family friend because again, my mom was an educator, and he came in to see some of the work. And he was like, "Hey, I have an opening at Chavez Community School. It's a continuation high school here in Woodland. The kids are kind of rough, but I think you'll like it." And I was like, "All right, cool." So like teaching at high school, like again, please don't pull out the yearbook. Like high school was not my time. So I did not see myself here at all. But once I was there, once I was in it, like I can't see myself doing anything else. So that's how it started. And then it just kept growing from there. So yeah.
right on. So I'm gonna pull up everybody out there. Thank you for coming for City of Altars, the live stream experience. Right. We're here every Monday to tell you what is going on with the next week coming up, and with interviews with an artist of the altar artist and from the City of Altars too. And we have some beautiful work of Elise that we're going to bring up, and if you could tell us about it, everybody, and also too, please ask questions. This is your show. This is about you out there, and I think we're probably not asking things that you want to hear. So ask questions away. So tell us about this piece.
So the person that this is kind of representing, her name is Maggie Escobedo Steele, but everybody calls her Tia Maggie, and she has led a bunch of different workshops for the advisors with Brown issues, but also with students. She does a lot of work with kids at juvenile halls, just people in prison, and just does some really like healing work
Yeah,
for people who really need it. And so I thought this was a good way to represent her. The photo that I worked from on this was taken by Kimmy Gudino, who's an advisor with Brown issues as well. And she was doing a retreat with Brown Issues advisors, just to kind of send us back to school, ready to go, ready to work with young people again. So yeah, that was this one.
It's a beautiful one. And what is Brown Issues, by the way?
So Brown Issues is a statewide youth leadership organization, focused on cultivating the next generation of Brown leaders through healing, civic engagement, and narrative change. And so a lot of us are either educators, or we have, our own jobs throughout the day, and then we
Yeah,
take
yeah.
these positions as advisors with Brown Issues, and just want to see more stuff available and advocate more for stuff to be available for young people in our areas. So
Right on. And let me go to as an art, as an artist, like we're gonna do a lot of this stuff anyways, right? We'll spend our own money, we'll spend our own energy, but it's actually kind of nice, and I like to thank the city of Alters and the city of Sacramento, and just for giving us this time to be able to express our artwork and to buy supplies, and I mean, it's a very beautiful thing, and I think that if we had that more investment into like especially into the youth, right, and stuff that we could like I would love to teach, right, but I don't have the resources to do that, right. Just like everybody else, like just a little bit, or having to give them something to come, and say, hey, here's your supplies. You don't have to buy anything, right?
yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing, and Carissa, thank you for for the whole concept of just bringing people together. Not not the original one, but just right?
I think that, I've kind of said it before, we all have a role to play in this work. And I think that we all, whether you're an artist, whether you're an educator, whether you're a youth leader, whether you're an elder, sometimes you're just a grant writer. It's we are all on this continuum of like making sure that investment, if possible, is coming to these communities so we can continue to do this work. And so a lot of these concepts or ideas around preserving our culture is aligned with our mission. It's what we do, and sharing it with the next generation is part of that. But what makes, whenever I speak to an artist in the community, it's like, I wanted to do this anyways. I always wanted to do XYZ, or I was going to do it. And to be able to say, now is a time of abundance. Now is the time to be investing in these spaces and helping them and strengthening that, unfortunately, or is only possible if we have this kind of funding. And it's something that is really difficult to talk about sometimes, but it's the reality that is why we have so many artists that work 2 to 3 jobs, or are doing so many different things, or educators that are using their own salary to be paying for supplies for their students. And rather than saying we are lobbying or advocating for funding for after school programs, we're actually saying we're doing much more than that. And I hope that a project like this can kind of is not a one-time thing, that really the city, the region, and the state at large can see that, look, for every dollar that you invest in these creative spaces, and there's like surveys to back this up, $12 are reinvested in your local economy. So you're never losing when you're investing in creative spaces, in your artists and your creative speakers. And that's just, I hate that we have to do these kinds of studies to demonstrate that. But at the same time, just listening to Elise talk about the work she's doing with youth, or the work that she's able to carry out, we lose that. We lose that when we are, putting an artist in a space where they are not able to create or engage or connect with the community. More often than not, what I see is creative people are doing this at the service of the people in their communities. I rarely, if ever, see someone who is not doing that. So I'm like, thanks, Janine. Like, Janine is another artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. To Chris's point, artists are among the least compensated class of word.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm like, but I don't want to derail from that. It's just that, look, there's a lot of us who are in these spaces who know this work is happening.
Yeah.
And want to kind of like fan that flame. And I think that it just speaks to, this one-time kind of project. It's like, invested in what's happening here and strengthen it. Don't take it away. Actually, and just Elise, that's why I'm like just so grateful for the work that you do and a lot of other folks do. I've kind of referred to you as like the NorCal Judy Baca, but it's like
Yeah, I like that.
I was like, hey, we're holding it down in the Sacramento region too, but it's like, it's just, how is arts more than just like a cherry on a sundae, but rather it's the very like fabric that weaves together everything we're trying to do here. And I don't have to make that case. I just kind of like do it, and then I pass over the mic, and I'm like, let the artist speak. And I think that's the cool part. But I'm just more curious, like, what has this allowed you to do that you maybe thought you couldn't do before, or how has this like, this the whole focus of this has a lot to do with Day of the Dead, sure, but the stories that are coming from the youth, like, what are you hearing from them that you perhaps weren't familiar could come out during this time? Like, especially with the poetry
Um,
workshop, I'm so curious.
yeah, I mean, well, one, the thing that I have wanted to do or that I wouldn't have been able to do is to bring in these other artists. So I think Jose Cordon, I think Ro, I think they would have come anyways if I had asked, like you said, like, we're gonna do the work anyways. But to be able to offer them something for their time and for what they're doing, what they're bringing, has been huge. And then as far as the poetry workshop, like, again, it's a Tuesday after this huge festival that I had all these kids volunteering at, and they're like, "Damn, you want me to do something else? Like, what is going on? Like, outside of school again?" And so I was like, "I'm picking you up, like, I'll pick you up at 4:15, like, you're gonna be there." And I think they just initially, they're like, "Okay, cool, how many credits am I getting? Or how many, like, I get community service for this, or what do I get out of this?" And then they get there, and then to be, like, in that space with 2 people who are really doing this and that care and that they were able to, like, feel comfortable and open up to, like, it couldn't have just been anybody, like, that was the perfect space to open up for them. And yeah, it was deep, like, to hear some of the students that some people, I mean, who have lost parents that I didn't know they had lost parents, or, um, there was this poem that, a student shared, talking about the first time that they held a gun and how powerful they felt, and then that they were with their cousin at the time when they did that, but then how powerless they felt to see their cousin in a casket because of that. Um, it was great, like, just the stories that were coming out of it, were things that hadn't been shared or that won't be shared, like, in a normal classroom setting, like, it's
Yeah.
very different. It was just, they turned something off and they turned something else on when they went into there, so, um, I think it was healing for them. It was whether they wanna, say that or not, or whether they have the words to say that,
Yeah.
it was, and, I wanna keep doing that. I wanna be able to continue to open up those spaces and do that, so, yeah, thank you. I keep saying thank you, but seriously, thank you.
Yeah, well, but
You.
that's and that's the thing too, is like what you just shared too, is like artists are full of emotional intelligence, right? We know how to bring it out on bring it on people too, right? Sometimes we just need those. I mean, I'm not just like, but we need those funds, right, to be able to have that ability to create some space for our own selves to bring that out in people, and people need that like that space that you gave them that night to be able to emote what they wanted to do, and I'm sure that they felt so much relief because that was probably in them for a while,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very beautiful thing, and I wish I was there to see it, but I know so. But anyways, but let's go to another part because and well, the City of Ultra thing has also gotten me to be able to do this, right? To bring community together, to bring different artists, because I think that's one thing that we don't know is enough about the artists themselves, right? We do put things out. We do like visual pieces, and a lot of them, I don't like to explain my pieces because I'm like, well, what do you feel? You know what I mean? That's up to you. You just, um, but also who is the artist? What is their own life? What do they do? What's their intentions? And how are you helping the community? And you seem to be doing a lot of that too. Um, but with that, we would love to see your artwork as well. So I'm gonna bring something up right here too, right?
Mm.
What's
Nice.
yes,
So this one was a commission piece from the Crocker, based on the Estampas de la Raza exhibition that they had. And so I think kind of the ask was to produce something that reflected one or more of the themes that were happening within that exhibit. And the thing that I continued to see popping up was this idea of identity, and talking with youth, brown youth who don't recognize or they're not familiar with the term Chicano. Like that's just not something that they've ever called themselves, that they have had family call themselves, like that's just not a
Yeah.
term for them. And um that was something that was constant, like throughout that, like every piece had some element of that. And it's such a like um there's no one way to describe a Chicano, right? Or Chicana. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different experiences. But this was one, I think, and I had said like this was something that I wanted to make into a series, titled La Nueva Onda. So the new wave, what is the new wave of Chicanos? Is there a new wave? What does that look like? And so this was just one kind of depiction of that um, with this young man. So
Right on. So people love it, and Carissa, I'm gonna bring another one up too. But you have any thoughts?
I think what struck me about this image was, so much of the Chicano movement has been about struggle and strife and
yeah,
what we heard from our parents and grandparents in these spaces. And just the ability to show someone who seems relaxed, even for a moment, is in and of itself um, kind of like an act of resistance. It's like that there are these moments to capture this coolness in the space, and I just really was drawn to this almost like this jazzy element of this image. So I thought it was beautiful. The first time I saw it, I was like, I'm so accustomed to seeing the strong black, the strong red that comes with these movements, and I almost feel like you kind of disintegrated and reintegrated them, like these colors, these different versions of these colors that we've seen. But I just like that this person isn't doing anything more than being in that space. And but also I'm just like I'm biased.
Yes, you are.
Like
She's a fan.
that was perfect though. I
unapologetically.
loved that. That was exactly, yeah, what I was hoping for. Like even like throwing the pinks in there and that gold, like all of it. Yeah. I didn't want it to just be, yeah, there's a um I talked to I think it was Tomas Montoya that I had first had
Yeah.
this conversation with about just how we kind of glorify this struggle, right? Like
Mhm.
and there's also just there's beauty in just like the community. It's not just all struggle. Like there is beauty and there's just in being. So I loved that. That was cool. I like that.
Okay. Glad we were
Okay,
having that conversation publicly.
so we have a love it, right?
Yeah.
How would you pronounce her name?
Viridiana.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. And Kari, uplifting and empowering community. Thank you for coming out. And then we have Sean Burners here. Hey, Sean, how you doing? Beautiful work. What is this medium?
Hey,
Still screen digital. Talk to me, please.
Hey, living
so this
legend.
one, they're both silkscreen. Well, these two have both been silkscreen that you've shown, or all three have been silkscreen. Um, this one is kind of based on a student that we had a couple years ago, that we worked closely with Brown Issues, and just him kind of starting to embrace his indigenous roots. He still, I mean, in the image here, is wearing that like new era hat, but that quote in the background too, is a quote from Alma Lopez, who is one of our advisors with Brown Issues a few years ago. And this was something that she said at a city council meeting after some of those um, young men who were killed. The response from the city was to invest more in policing and yeah, just put more money towards police and it'll fix everything. Make sure we arrest all these bad guys and it'll be okay. And the youth who spoke up and were talking to us about what they really needed, this kind of came out of that. So just changing the conditions that young people are growing in, instead of just continuing to Yeah.
Kind of do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
tried
right.
this. We've done this.
I
You know,
know that's a great.
uh,
Anyways, that's another conversation too, right? Altogether, right?
yeah, it
Is
is
that
just
we've done?
the safest communities don't have the most police. They have the most
Yeah,
resources.
yeah.
Wait, may I
So
ask you, Elise, to read Alma's words out loud?
Yeah. So we never question the plant. We never punish the plant for not growing. We always change the conditions in which it's growing. If we want to address violence in our community, we have to look to the social conditions that our young people are growing in and change them.
nice. Here you go. And then Kari says, nice to be here to support our youth and the amazing work that y'all do. See? So, let's come back. Yeah, that was great. That was a great portal to go through. You do some wonderful work. You really do. So, yeah, I know that people get shy sometimes, right? Right, and do, but it is. I've seen you do things, and I've seen you, from the first show that we did together, and all this. I'm grateful to know you. I'm grateful, you know what I mean? Like, I think, and you're going to show me how to silk screen too. So,
Down.
of course, of course. Let's go back to our what is happening this week again, so people out there who know or who just came here to know what is happening this week in the city of Altars, and we'll go to, of course, to Tana, Carissa. You're this
Oh,
great
okay. I was like,
spokesperson.
well, Dana, tomorrow, after Elise gives some youth some rides, we'll be taking them to build an altar, sugar skull, and printmaking workshop. And just a heads up that all of these workshops are actually free to the community because of this funding.
Yeah.
So if you have youth, and actually, Elise, that's a question more for you: are these workshops just for youth, or are families welcome to attend with their youth, or how would you like to structure these?
So this one is open to everyone. So the Sugar Skull workshop, we're gonna limit it to 25. The first 25 that show up, we're gonna have materials for everyone. So Ro Mottsmith is an artist from I think Davis actually, but their mom was a ceramics artist at Chavez when I first started, and so that's how I kind of got introduced to them and the work that they do. And a lot of it is sugar skulls. They do retablos, papel picado, and so just super excited to bring them into this and have them be a part of it. So they'll be leading that part of it, but I'll also be doing some prints on fabric. So I'm doing kind of a these fabric papel picado almost that I want
Yeah.
to string across our final altar. So those will go out. People can kind of see what I'm doing with that, and then I'll give out some of those to people to take home. So if they do miss out on the sugar skulls, there will be a bunch of other stuff to do at Tana tomorrow. That Tana will be providing, that Eddie has going on, that they can work on and then take some stuff home for sure. So whether you make it in the first 25 or not, you'll have something to do and something to take home.
So what street is Tana on?
It's on Lehman Avenue, so I think I put the address on there.
I don't think I did. So
Okay, I got you.
yeah, we're more interested in the artwork part too, and then the actual details.
What's really interesting is, like, I was born and raised in Sacramento, yes, and went to a lot of these schools, but then my mom's side of the family lives in Woodland, so I went to high school in Woodland. And the place where Tana is right across the street from like Donnelly, like those it's like government housing where a lot of like immigrant Mexican households are. That's where my mom grew up. And so it's really interesting to see that intentional use of that space across the street from these houses, where this work is happening. So I just, even in learning about it in the last year, at least, or like last 2 years, it's really cool about even how we put these spaces, these cultural spaces, these art spaces intentionally in communities where you can create access for youth in those spaces. So I am really grateful that that exists. I'm not sure what we could have done if we were coming up in spaces where we had access to these spaces too. But my hope is that every young person should have the ability to be developing their art and expressing creatively.
Definitely. Yeah. Hopefully there I mean, could always use more than just one. So, just working like some of the kids have brought up, we want somewhere where we can make music. We want somewhere where we can do what the XYZ, right? Build
Right.
lowrider bikes. Like I want to learn how to do these different things. And so, Tana is a good space right now, but they only have space for so
Yeah,
much to happen. And so there's no reason why more can't be done here in Woodland, and I hope that we just continue to build on that. So that's the goal.
right
But
on. Well, up next we have
Legados y Futuros. This is at the Washington Neighborhood Center. And that will be Thursday, October 19th, 6 to 9. So there will be a benefit celebration in support of the Washington Neighborhood Center. So they will also have many different activities, gatherings, and Jocelyn, who's their director there, has been an incredible, I mean, all the partners have been incredible to work with. These are beautiful people who've been leading in these spaces, and we're really grateful to be in community with them. But if you can, go to the WNC on Thursday at 6.
that's right, and then on Saturday, which is the main.
Souls of the City.
Yes.
So, for those familiar with Soul Collective, Estela Sanchez is one of the founders of this space, has been leading a lot of these traditions and keeping this going for a long time. So, y'all should definitely check out their Dia de los Muertos celebration in Old Sac.
Got it. Right on. So, and everybody out there will be here next Monday, every Monday for a little bit, for a while, right? To tell what's coming on for this, City of Altars.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and what's going on, and who are we gonna talk to next week is Vidal. He is going to be doing these workshops of the altars and workshops, but who else is doing it though too? There's other people. There's other, yeah.
So as I was mentioning, and honestly, Elise, I was hoping that you would show. I'm so excited to see the altar you're building with the youth for your Day of the Dead festival. But each of these workshops, each of these activations, these major Dia de los Muertos events are going to be exhibiting the altares that these organizations built with other organizations or folks in their community. For the Latino Center of Art and Culture specifically, we just had a community altar workshop and sort of day with folks in the community led by Lupe Portillo. But on the 28th, we will actually have our own Maestro Vidal Beltran, who's our director of folk and traditional art, lead a conversation with 4 other maestros from Mexico to talk about how altares are represented there. And so what I find so fascinating in this work is how the altar is or is not represented in certain states of Mexico, how it has been brought to the United States, how California has completely created its own idea of what the altar is, and how the Chicano movement has also made it what it is today, and how that idea is going back to other spaces, other states, other countries. And so the idea that the altar is done in a very specific way, there are certain practices that are true for people, but the altar is a universal practice and it's interpreted differently wherever you may be. And it goes beyond watching Coco, all right? So just like, but I think like just seeing the way Elise is doing it with the youth and, using it, it's the altar is almost like a messenger tool. And it just begs us to ask ourselves, what do we hold sacred, what do we honor, and what do we bring attention to during this time? But yeah, we're excited to have Maestro Vidal speak with us next week because he'll be telling us more about how it's done in specific states in Mexico. And so it's just a privilege to be able to host the spaces for those conversations to happen. And you can see all of those altares being built at each of our respective spaces.
Yeah, so it's a good. We should have a map to where people can go.
It sounds like you're making one, Ruben.
I think so. Yeah, if you say it, you got to do it.
That is a rule.
that is a rule actually. But I'll be making an immersive space. I'll be making a space of a digital space, but it's actually a physically digital space of altars. It was based off seeing my mom's picture for the very first time on a screen because she passed away when I was 4 days old. And so one of the biggest pictures I've ever seen was I scanned it and I was going to make some photos or copies for my family. and it's the first time I ever seen her face like big, right? So it kind of threw me, threw me back, right? I've seen, it's just something that came through through the screen with the light and everything that became something in a different way from what I do is special for me, right? So, so that's what my altar is going to be based on my travels to Oaxaca during Dia de los Muertos and walking through the cemeteries and in the panteones, but as a more of a vibrational space of light and sound. So that's what I'll be doing. And then it's fun because I get to do it and I get to not have to spend my money to do it. That's awesome. Yeah. So I mean, but to show what we can do, you know what I mean? Like so, and that's what I think that artists need, just that little bump to be like, okay, well, you want to see something, this is it, you know. And I think people will emote to different pieces and different altars that have different meanings for different artists too, right? So I'm excited about that. I had a lot of friends who, being in the music world and the poetry world, have taken their own lives. But they're really good people, and I want to honor them too. Of my friends who, who struggled through that too, right? And to bring that upon, but to also show the beauty that they live too, and they were very beautiful, troubled people in a sense too, but they were just awesome, and so that's what I'm doing, and I miss them a lot. So yeah, and so real quick in my altar, you're going to see not just pictures of them, but actually them doing poetry, doing music and stuff like that, like little clips of them in their lives, what they were doing. So this should be interesting. At least that's a concept. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Hold on, we have see. That's for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and to be able to show our indigenous parts in our lives too, and how this all just mixes into each other, like Chris was saying, like either it's Mexico or it's like Chicano or it's California, whether it's like Philippines or anything like that, right? Because we all at this point in time celebrate this in our own different ways. Like if you go to Europe, it's different, right? They just clean the tombs, right? You go to the Philippines, it's another way, but all happens in this time period right now. So that's the beauty of when the portal opens. It doesn't open up just for this region, but it opens up for the whole region. So, and through death, right, we're going to find a lot of healing, I think, and I think it's already happening. So you can feel it. So yeah.
Yeah, I was in a strange space. Well, not strange. It was a really nice space on Saturday, but there was someone there who was from Taiwan, and there were some more Asian Pacific Islander folks present, and they were talking about a very similar practice of this sweeping of the the tomb or cemetery, but because of weather conditions, their harvest time is more June, July. So that practice, the practice of honoring the dead, of honoring those who have passed, is a universal practice. And I think the more that we get to the root of this work and creating space for that, I think it brings us closer to our humanity. And so, but seeing the interpretations of that, through Elise's work, as you talk with youth, I thought it was really powerful as you shared the way that violence has impacted them and has caused them loss, but how to utilize these methods that have been in place. We look to indigenous medicine really to help us heal. How these are tools that we can be equipping young folks with to handle so much loss that no young person should really be dealing with. So I don't know, at least was that something that you knew? I did not actually actively create out that as a young person.
I didn't either. I didn't either. I mean, that's not true. My mom did. It wasn't like this. It wasn't a part of anything. It was just something that we did within our house and our family. But I don't think even when I bring it up, like the kids are like, oh, like you said, like, oh, Coco, like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, but there's something bigger than that. And to invite them into things like a poetry thing, that's a poetry reading or workshop, where it's like, this isn't something that you saw on Coco, but it's also very much like part of this. Like it's part of what this whole thing is supposed to be doing. So yeah, and somebody brought that up too at the blessing, that there was I mean, you can find Day of the Dead stuff everywhere at Target and Michael's or wherever, right? But to really sit there and just be with people and be in community with all these people that are um, kind of connecting back to something bigger than that, for sure. So
And Coco was just the gateway, you know what I mean, for people
mhm.
too. I mean, I was actually there in Oaxaca when they were filming Coco, and they
Mhm.
actually went down there to do some studies and not study, but to learn from the culture. So it was interesting to talk to them. You know, they were just happened to be in the small town I was in, and they're like, "We're here if we're gonna, we're gonna make a film, and this is part of our." Then they were in San Martin where they do the alebrijes. So they did so that town right there specifically does alebrijes. That's what they're known for, and so you can see the big one that they did for Coco there. You know, but they actually, they did do some of their homework though. So they didn't just wing it. But that
Yeah,
was the whole,
it
yeah,
was
you know,
a good movie.
and yeah, and sometimes we need that, right? Just to be able to start that conversation, right?
Definitely.
And I think people sometimes go against it. I'm like, it's a start. It's a conversation starter. It's not like it's not the whole thing, right? Now
Yeah.
we're at the point, because when they see some things like that, and then we can expand on that too, right? And say, okay, well that's true, but there's some other parts to it too. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, so we'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and it wasn't as painful, right, Elise?
No.
Any last words?
Yeah.
Any last words, Elise?
No
Well,
last
I did
other
want to show one more piece.
tomorrow. Oh shoot.
Is that okay?
If it's a yearbook picture.
No, I would never
No,
do that.
no, I wouldn't. I
I
wouldn't.
would never. Yeah, I don't have access to that knowledge, but I do want to show everybody. So, Elise, thank you for coming on the show. And before we go off too, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your knowledge too, and what you do for community is very impactful. And I think your pathway will be that way too. We have a couple of comments. I want to make sure that they're I get to them before. Oh, Yaya's here. Hey, Yaya. How you doing? Blessings, yeah. And then Daniel, Lorenzo, good show. How you doing, Daniel? Taking a break, catching up with y'all. Yeah. I know what you're doing, so that's good. You need a break sometimes. And yes, more art, please. See? So the the audience is wanting more. I am gonna pull up one more, Elise, and please walk us through this creation.
Yes.
Oh dang. This one's got a lot going on. So this was based on a student that I had, and he knows it. So he would come into my class. He was one of the first students I had at Cache Creek, and um, he was so like he just wanted to know more, and it was interesting because he was half Filipino and half Mexican. Looked presented very Asian, and everyone gave him just almost like bullied him for that. And so him wanting to just connect more with, he'd wear brown pride shirts, and um he was just he was just I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but he was my favorite. Like he was great. Um, but he just wanted to know so much about history and learning about his own like identity, his cultural identity, like where he comes from, where his family comes from, like both the Filipino side and the Mexican side. But there was also all this other stuff going on around him. So loss and having to feel like he needed to protect himself all the time and always be on guard. And so that's where all of this came. It was just kind of everything that he was dealing with and just the chaos that was everywhere. And that I tried to just kind of put into all of this. And then also to have in the background some of the more connected like indigenous pieces in the back. Yeah, this one's got a lot going on.
Yeah, no, yeah, perfect.
I don't know if I'm doing a good job of describing it all, but yeah.
You're doing a great job. So yeah, um, yeah. So there you go. One more. Well, we do have one more though.
Oh shoot.
Right? That's okay. Let me look up. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Aha. Nope. This one. Nope. This one. I
Nope,
guess
you're
we don't.
out. We're all out.
Oh.
This one. Oh well, great. That was the quick slideshow.
No, that was
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
Yeah, go back.
Okay. Sorry. Look. Okay. There you go.
Oh dang.
Yeah.
So this one was the poster and just ended up being on a beer can, which was awesome. But just the artwork for the Farm Workers Festival here in
Oh
Yellow.
yeah.
So yeah, that's I mean, I'm trying to think of what else I can say about it. It was the event was awesome. The coolest part about this was when we went to visit the fields. So for the 2 weeks before the event, we delivered burritos to 500 farm workers and cannery workers, and a lot of the women that would walk up, this like very similar to this image, like just with the face covering and a hat and a bandana. And Carlos, one of the advisors with Brown Issues, kept telling him like, next year you guys can like apply to be the model for the next year's flyer. So um yeah, that's what that came from. And then the symbol in the background, the indigenous symbol of Xochitl, and just wanting to bring that in. Yeah, so that's what that is.
People love it. Some sense of form. I'll say. Carissa.
No.
I'm also the producer here, so sometimes I need help. Just kidding.
No, I think what's exciting about, sometimes I just feel really lucky that I get to meet these people. And so I'm just it's cool that there's community out there that wants to understand the project better, who are a part of these spaces, who know Elise, who want to get to know Elise, or Ruben knows you or want to get to know you. And I think I'm learning is that we're all pretty, it's a small town, it's a small world. And I think the more that we can connect and do things and collaborate, the more we can do for our communities. And so it's just really, I'm just here because Ruben's like helped me out. But honestly, I think I get to do this. When it's done well, it feels like this, we're moving something, but really it's just an exciting time. And I'm just really grateful for the time and dedication that artists like you, Ruben, or artists like Elise, or even Yaya, who's in the comments, Bridget's doing this work. Like so many folks are bridging these divides, and this talent is here. And like, I'm just like, look, like, look. So it's really beautiful. But no, I have nothing more to say than other than like Elise is just one of the coolest people I know. But also I feel that way about a lot of artists, and your focus on youth and youth related issues, I think is so important. And we tend to forget them. We tend to think that because they don't show up in spaces, they don't care. And that's just not true. It's like, I really appreciate that you said that earlier. It's like, yeah, I have to give them rides. Yes, they want to be here. And I just appreciate that we are giving them the time and place and that dignity that they deserve to be expressing their stories. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. I just pushed this too fast, so I'm going to come back.
Gadi would like to connect with Lise and all of us. I work with our youth impacted by incarceration, so glad to be here tonight. Y'all can exchange DMs
Let's do it.
at some point. Let's do that. Yeah, I think that this is there's a lot of that energy across the state, even of folks doing this kind of work. And I truly, yeah, it's just cool. This is just one project, sure, but it's like, how do we uphold and uplift a lot of the folks doing this work and put them in, direct relation to one another?
Yeah, and it's a continuous process. So this is, like you said, this is one project going on, and the good thing about this whole thing is that we will connect with different projects and stuff like that too. Mm-hmm. Hold on, we have this. What? Oh, see you tomorrow, your art opening. Oh, thank you, Craig. Thank you for bringing me up there. Yeah. But let me see. Craig also says, "Say farmer art."
Needs to
Yeah,
be an integral part of the farm to art needs to be an integral part of the farm to fork table movement in our region. I
so
don't know,
Craig,
Lisa, if you have time to talk about that.
yeah, well, Craig, and real quick, but Craig and his wife, he has a tequila back in, it's called Dos Volcanes, but they give back money for scholarships for students in Mexico. So I think they have one student finally got, her scholarship and went to college and stuff like that too. So, he knows a lot of, a lot about that too. So, and how, we all try to help out as much as we can, right? And so that's
Where
something.
is
Yeah,
this the same Craig who has his agave field somewhere in?
yeah, Woodland. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the one that we have his agave at the center actually. So,
See,
yeah,
we gotta connect.
yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, there's a big connection back there, and and so, that's where I know Craig from. I know his wife from, what work they do too over there in that area. Was hoping to share of symbols and wisdom behind them. Listen, sorry, Carissa.
Sure. Yaya is saying, was hoping to catch Elisa's share of her choice and the symbols and ancient wisdom behind them. We'll have to listen to the replay. Thank you all for what you do. Sending you deep love.
Yeah. Yeah, you're late in the game right now, but yes, go back and listen to it. So you definitely want to connect with Alicia. And
Yeah.
so Craig, and he does. I do a lot of well artwork for him for the agave fields in Woodland too. And yeah, so there's definitely a connection there too. So
Cool.
yeah, there's always a connection, and I think this is the whole point too. Is that we need a hub for connection, right? Whether it's going to be for me, it's going to be virtual. That's because I know people will just come out from everywhere, right? And they won't necessarily drive somewhere, but it's a great way to connect different people from, because I'm on the one that you need to connect with that one person, and that one person leads to the next, right? So, but yeah, anyways, any more questions for Elise before we leave? And I just want to say thank you for coming out, and come next
Where can
Monday night.
how can people reach you or find out more about your work, Elise?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like the best way is Instagram. So at weareseeds.art, for me specifically, and then just stuff for brown issues throughout the area, throughout the state is just at brown issues.
Any last words, Carissa? The audience, any last words or any last questions for Elise? Yeah. Oh, we can't wait. Yeah. Everybody's like, wait. Okay, so please catch us. I'll say definitely want to connect with Elise. Okay, perfect. See.
Okay.
No, he just had a big event over in the. I couldn't make it because I had to get ready for my show. Yesterday was a dinner that they had over in Woodland too, in the fields too. Would have been a beautiful event too. But thank you everybody for coming out for the City of Altars, the live stream experience. I thought, well, you know what can we do? Anyways, come out next Monday at 7:00, and we will have some good, different Spanish and English. Right, you're going to be the translator next week, so
Sure.
Yeah, come out tomorrow. So thank you, Elise, for coming out.
Yeah,
Carissa,
of course. Yes.
Thank you, Elise. Thank
you
you,
guys,
Ruben.
you guys just stay on for 1 minute, and as I fade out to the show real quick, and just want to say, that's where the after party starts. So.